So we're at the precipice of this most remarkable moment.
Yeah.
This experiment is about to pass the 250-year mark, which is an extraordinary achievement.
It is indeed. My film before the Buffalo was one called The U.S. and the Holocaust, a very difficult film.
A work of genius, of profound importance and relevance, and you honor the memory of the dead with that work and your country's history with it. And I hope it gives you deep satisfaction that it will endure for generations.
I will tell my co-directors, Sarah Botstein and Lynn Novick, and our writer, Jeff Ward, what you said. We are proud of it. It has legs. It's continuing to do something. I ran into a man the other day who said to me, do you agree that the Holocaust is the most important event since the birth of Christ? And I said, no, the birth of the United States is the most important event since the birth of Christ. And I believe that in all my heart. I mean, the most important.
There's no question.
There's no question of that.
And that is true.
And that's why we cannot lose our connection to the ideas, however imperfect they were, however certainly imperfectly applied at the beginning, however much contradiction and hypocrisy is in it. You know, slave owners talking about how George III is enslaving them, right? Thomas Jefferson writing these immortal words, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, and he owns hundreds of human beings and doesn't see that contradiction or that hypocrisy. We still represent a light that we have to actually at this moment preserve. I mean, what the revolution, working on a history of the revolution, which will come out, by the way, in 2 years, which will be the 250th anniversary of Lexington and Concord, the beginning of the revolution, and hopefully avoid some of the fife and drum treacle we'll be drowning in the next year, is that there is something there for all the contradictions, for all the terrible things done to Native peoples, to the fact that more Black Americans wanted to side with the British because they saw a clearer path to freedom and liberation, sometimes cynically promised by the Brits. But at the heart of this is the most noble experiment in the most noble aspirations of humankind that liberated it like the next stage of a rocket from where it had been heretofore. And that's what we are required now, particularly in this grave crisis we're in, to remember and to try to save.
Let's talk about that crisis. I gave a speech yesterday to the United Brotherhood of Carpenters, and I said that I think there are two unique things about me. The first one is that I'm one of a very, very small number of living Americans that have been deeply involved on both sides of the concession transaction. On the winning side, and I placed the phone call for John McCain to Barack Obama. He became the first person to say the following words: "Congratulations, Mr. President-elect. God bless you, sir." It's what John McCain said when he was handed my BlackBerry to Barack Obama on election night. It's also why I forbade Sarah Palin to speak, who wanted to go out and desecrate the moment, which she certainly would have, even as the president-elect was speaking. The second thing is that in a political business where I understand kind of the history of the parties, the coalitions within them, the dynamism between them, the movement back and forth. I came from New Jersey, a moderate Republican tradition, but what is true in this era, with a handful of exceptions, and by handful, I mean literally, I can count them on a hand. Every single person I ever worked with in a business that ultimately, if you are invested with any type of government responsibility, you take an oath.
Yes.
Every single person I've ever known and ever worked with abandoned everything that they said that they believed in. And they got in line as fast as any group of people anywhere in the world have ever gotten in line behind something they knew to be wrong for their convenience.
Yeah.
And so I have been accused of being hyperbolic about the nature of the threat. I don't think I have been. I think I've been understated, if anything. I think you're able to see it a long time coming.
Yep.
There's an allergy for some reason in our culture to take what the extremist movement says, both literally and seriously. Case in point, to the Proud Boys, stand by and stand back. There seemed to be a real disorientation around what it is that a Proud Boy is, which is a fascist paramilitary. They are a version, Americanized, 21st centuryized of the SA. Simple as that. So there's been this allergy to dealing with it. And I just wanted to ask you to talk about how you see the magnitude of the danger and the threat. And to me, without prejudicing you, what I think is unique in it is the cowardice in confronting it, which, whatever you say about the country, cowardice in confronting some of this stuff has never been top of the list. It's a new phenomenon, and I'm not sure I understand what drives it, and I'm hoping you can give some perspective to it.
I wish, Steve, that I could give an intelligent one. I think cowardice is exactly the word. Obviously, it's motivated by political expediency, and that means power and holding on to it, and not upholding the oath that you've taken, not understanding the fundamental thing that makes us all the same, that there's the lesson of my work is that there's only us, there's no them. And whenever anyone tells you there's a them, just run away. I mean, there's no them. It's only us. That's what it's about. And we have lost that. There is a sense of I'm shrewd and I can do this. But I'll tell you, if you wanted to be in the hippest place on earth where everything is happening in cinema and in architecture and in painting and in music in 1932, there's no better place to go than Berlin. And the next year, not so much. The people who permitted him, though he had nowhere near a majority of votes, not even a significant plurality, the conservatives who put him in saying, in 6 months, he will be singing our tune. In 6 months, they were dead or marginalized or, complete toadies. And so this is not new in human existence. The ability to take an expedient route that speaks to some sort of short-term game is basically what Jefferson was talking about when he said we're disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable. Well, we'll take that short-term reward. The kid who'll take the one M&M and not wait for the 15 minutes for the 3. That's what we do. And that kind of thing is so stunning in the face of a history, as you're suggesting and implying, that is so filled with moments of courage, including, by the way, the group of people who suffered proportionally the greatest number of casualties in the Vietnam War, Native Americans, right? It's hard to fathom. And I think, we've watched over our lives the switch of the party that was founded in 1854, which had as one of its principal things the emancipation of the Black man, the elimination of the oligarchy, the domination of the very rich as represented by the plantation. No aristocracy in America. Out of the ashes of the Whig Party, we were going to form this thing. And we're going to support small farmers and small businessmen and African Americans as they live out the full meaning of our creed, as Dr. King said. That's all been switched. That's all been switched around. And now we find ourselves in a place where, and I think in some ways, as Marshall McLuhan said, the medium's the message. There is something about the proliferation of media, like the dangers in, Fantasia of Mickey Mouse and the Sorcerer's Apprentice, of all that stuff, all those places. Everybody's an independent free agent, and it's now what's in it for me. And there's not enough about what I can do as Kennedy challenge for our country. And you see the extraordinary examples of courage. And when they stand out, they're in broad relief, but they're not enough of them. They're not enough Liz Cheney's. They're not enough Adam Kinzinger's. They're not enough you or others who have just said, David Jolly, who just says, I can't associate myself with this set of actions. They're not even principles. There are no policies that go along with it. It's just a kind of blind adherence to personality. And that doesn't make for a political party, and it doesn't make for the future of a democracy. And so, we have to just constantly remind ourselves of our history with all its complexity. And I have in my editing room this neon sign that says it's complicated, because there's not a filmmaker on earth, if the scene's working, you want to leave it alone. But no, we open those things up when we learn new and contradictory information. And we have to go forward, finding some way where we can speak to our brothers and sisters in a way that reminds them of the seriousness of this moment, that the law does matter, that these are not minor things that have taken place. This is not the revenge of one person against another. This is what we've always done as a country. And, it really remains to be seen, particularly today as we are recording this, how we will come out. I don't know the answer, but I know that we can't, now is the time, as the old typing thing goes, for all good patriots to come to the aid of their country.